You all right, Pat? Okay. Right. Good evening, members and officers. Welcome to our Licensing Committee. Before we start, I'll ask Gary to read the webcasting introduction.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of subsequent repeated viewing, with copies of the recording being made available for those that request it. By being present at this meeting, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. You should be aware that this may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you have any concerns, then please speak to the webcasting officer. Thank you, Chairman. And finally, could I just remind members to switch their microphones on when they speak, please?
Right. Thank you, Gary. We move on to apologies, and I'll ask our new member to licensing from Democratic Therese Larson, if you'd read the apologies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we have a few. We have apologies from Councillors Lyon, Matthews, Morgan.
No, Mia. I did say my apologies for
Morgan, Councillor Stocker and Councillor Whitehouse.
Okay.
Is that 5 in total?
Yeah.
Item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest for anybody? No? Right. Any other business? No?
No, Chairman, we have no other business tonight.
Right. Item 5 is the minutes of the last licensing committee, which are on pages 4 and 5. Can I sign those as a correct record? Everybody all right? Okay. Item 6, minutes of licensing committees on pages 4 to... No, minutes, sorry. Licensing committee...
Chairman, can I come in on that one?
Yes, please do.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Those of you that have been members of this committee for a number of years would know at this point you would find, those of you that are chairman would find copies of the minutes that you chaired on your desks for you to sign. We are about to implement DocuSign, so we're going to move very quickly, hopefully, to having electronic signature for minutes. So this item won't appear on future committee meetings because it's going to become redundant. We'll just follow the normal process. When the minutes are drafted, they'll be distributed to the officers and the chairman for comment. And once they're published, a second copy will be sent through to the relevant chairman through DocuSign, and you'll just have to click on the boxes where it says initial and signature. And then it'll come back to us and we will hold the signed copies of the minutes electronically, rather than the old bound books that we used to have. Thank you, Chairman.
Right. Okay, thank you. Now, the item 6 is the minutes of the licensing committees. No, I'm going too far ahead. I've gone to 7 now, haven't I? Yeah, licensing statistics, March to September, and they're on page 10. Anything you want to say on this, Dave?
No, thank you, Chair.
Right. You all know, I think you all know David King, our licensing manager, don't you? Yeah. Item 8 is the National Register of Taxi and Private Hire licences. Again, that's David King, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, this is just by way of an update. As you know, the Taxis and Private Hire Vehicles Safeguarding and Road Safety Act 2022 came into effect in May of last year. The aim of the legislation is to improve public safety and confidence in taxi and private hire licensing. It follows numerous high-profile cases where drivers who have been refused licences or had a licence revoked in one area have gone to another area and received a licence by failing to disclose their previous history. The legislation places duties on licensing authorities to improve information sharing regarding taxi and private hire drivers by the measures outlined in the report. The National and Anti-Fraud Network is a designated database provider. They have been nominated to establish a database where councils record certain taxi and private hire driver licensing decisions relating to the safeguarding or road safety concerns in that designated database. The types of licensing decision which must be recorded includes refusing to grant a driver's licence, refusing to renew a driver's licence, the suspension of a driver's licence, or revoking a licence. The requirement to record these decisions is limited to decisions based wholly or partly on safeguarding or road safety concerns that are detailed in the report. When recording an entry on the database, the licensing authority must do so in 5 working days of notifying the driver or the applicant of the decision. The details entered are restricted to the personal details of the individual in question and the action and the date taken. The entry does not include specific details of the offence or the complaint that led to that decision. It's for the searching authority to contact the authority that made the entry directly to request that information. The committee are advised that since new requirements have come into force, the Council's licensing team have added 8 entries to the database following a suspension or refusal to grant a licence. As a result of searches conducted of the database, 3 applications have been referred to the Council's licensing subcommittee for determination, all of which have been refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kesker.
Sorry, I've got it now.
Right.
Only comment is to say I'm amazed it took so long for the government to introduce this. It's such common sense, and it already has proved exceptionally useful to us.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments? So we can agree that then?
Yep.
Right, move on to pavement licences. As you know, these were granted in 2021 and 22, and now the government has said yes, carry on in 23. Dave King.
Yes, Chair. I don't propose to go through the whole report unless the committee find it particularly useful. It's already been extended. It was extended in 2021 and again in 2022. The new legislation from the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill was meant to have come into effect by now, and it would have made pavement licensing permanent. Unfortunately, that hasn't been possible, so again it's slipped for a further period. So the government have extended it again until the 30th of September 2024. In terms of the existing pavement licence holders, we received notification of this in August of this year, so we notified them accordingly, and we've taken the measures that we had in previous years, and that was to write to those that had a licence, advising them of the change and allowing them to extend it for a further period free of charge as long as there was no variation. All of our previous pavement licences have subsequently been renewed for a further period. Thank you, Chair.
Any comments? Councillor Wood.
Yeah, just on one bit on page 14, it talks about extending the maximum duration of pavement licences from 1 year to 2 years. But that would take you beyond August 2024.
Sorry, what page is that?
On page 14,
Yeah, it's only been extended for another year, so that was an error in the report.
Okay. Right, well, we all that was just for information. We go on to item 10, temporary event notices. These again, I'll ask David King to give us an update on that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in June 2021, regulations came into force to increase the annual number of temporary event notices that a licensed premises can have from 15 to 20 and increase the maximum number of days in which they can be held from 21 to 26 per calendar year. The purpose of the increase at the time was to support the hospitality trade during and post-COVID. It applied to the number of tents submitted between the 1st of January 2022 and is due to end on December 2023. Between March and May this year, Government ran a consultation on whether to make permanent the alcohol licensing provisions and to whether or not to return to pre-COVID provisions in the Licensing Act. One of the questions asked by Government was when the temporary increase to 10s ends on the 31st of December this year, should the annual allowance remain at the extended amount or whether it should return to pre-COVID provisions. The Licensing Committee are advised that in light of responses received, Government has announced that on the 1st of January 2024, the number of temporary event notices permitted will return to previous restrictions. From this date, the maximum number of temporary event notices that can be served in respect of the same premises will be 15, and the maximum number of days on which it can be held will be 21 per calendar year. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any questions, members? Okay, that's another one for information for us. We move on to item 11, Martin's Law. Again, David?
Thank you, Chair. Again, it's for information. On the 19th of December 2022, the government announced details for Protect Duty, now to be known as Martin's Law, in tribute to Martin Hett, who was killed alongside 21 others in the Manchester Arena terrorist attack in 2017. The purpose of Martin's Law is to enhance our national security and to reduce the risk to the public from terrorism in public venues. It will place a requirement on those responsible for certain locations to consider the threat from terrorism and to implement appropriate and proportionate mitigation measures. The legislation will ensure parties are prepared, ready to respond and know what to do in the event of an attack. It will impose a legal duty on the owners and operators of certain locations to increase their preparedness for and the protection from terrorist attack by requiring them to take proportionate steps depending on the size and nature of the activities that take place there. The legislation will apply across England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and premises will fall in the scope where a qualifying activity takes place. These will include entertainment and leisure, retail, food and drink, museums and galleries, sports grounds, visitor attractions, temporary events, places of worship, health and education, and public areas of local and central and local government buildings. So that will include town halls, etc. It will apply to eligible premises, including any location or event that has a defined boundary allowing the capacity to be known. Eligible locations will be drawn into the scope of the legislation if they meet the following three tests: that the premises is a building or event with a defined boundary, that qualifying activity takes place at the location, and the maximum occupancy of the premises meets a specified threshold, which is either 100 or 800. Depending on the capacity levels, eligible premises will fall into either a standard or enhanced tier. Standard tier premises will be required to undertake simple yet effective measures to improve security and preparedness. This will apply to qualifying locations with a maximum capacity of over 100, including larger retail stores, bars, restaurants and outdoor events. The suggested measures will include the completion of free training, awareness raising and the completion of a preparedness plan to embed practices to delay attackers' progress. The enhanced tier will see additional requirements placed on high-capacity locations in recognition of the potential catastrophic consequences of a successful attack. This will apply to locations with a capacity of over 800 people. This will include music venues, theatres, cinemas, large or outdoor events and department stores. These premises will need to undertake a risk assessment and provide a security plan, and additional measures could include the implementation of physical measures like CCTV or new systems and processes to enable them to have better security. It is proposed that some limited exclusions and exemptions will apply, and these include locations where transport security regulations already apply, such as airports and train stations, those premises that are vacant over a reasonable period or are permanently closed, those with a large floor space but a low capacity in practice, this would include warehouse and storage facilities, offices and private residential locations. The legislation is currently at draft stage, and the Home Affairs Select Committee conducted pre-legislative scrutiny in June. Whilst there is support for the bill, concerns have been raised regarding the proportionality and in particular the impact and the burden it will have on smaller premises within the standard tier. The Home Affairs Select Committee have also raised concerns that as it stands, a village hall would have to take safety precautions, however an open-air farmers market or Christmas market would not, and this makes little sense. Therefore, at this time, the bill is still subject to change. However, it has been suggested that royal assent will be given early 2024. This will be followed by a transitional period during which businesses can prepare before the Act comes into force in 2025. Once approved, Dedicated statutory guidance and support will be provided by government to ensure those in scope can effectively discharge their responsibilities. Once we are aware of the final details, the Council will also be providing advice and guidance to those premises that are likely to be affected. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members?
Yeah, me. Councillor Hadley.
I've got the wrong glasses on. Councillor Hadley.
Does this include, do you think, financial support to those areas that are going to have to put a lot of effort into putting these things into practice?
That hasn't been covered in the report yet. So there is, as I say, it's still at the kind of scrutiny level, so it will be subject to change. I know there has been, they've done a lot of financial costing around it, and there is some general information out there, but it hasn't been mentioned if there'll be support for smaller businesses, no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just interested in a bit where it said, I know this is a draft bill and there's no bones in the meat yet. Completion of free training, who's going to be providing free training?
Yeah, another thing.
There's actually free training that's already available online for businesses and that want to prepare for this, and so there will be free online training. There has been some around for a while, and that will no doubt be enhanced as well.
Councillor Wood.
Do we know who actually collates the information to say this is a suitable building or premises or business, or is it a case of it's down to them to decide, or is it us, or is it the government?
You referring to how we'll identify premises? It is a very valid question because, as you know, under the Licensing Act, for example, with our licensed premises, we don't actually put a capacity there. That's actually determined through their own risk assessment of the business. So there will be a certain element of that. It will be obvious in some premises, but not necessarily in others. So there will be some work to be done around that.
Councillor Kesker.
Yeah, thank you. David, if you're a premises that has an availability of, let's say, 100, in theory, you come into this lower category. Even if there is, I'm speaking from experience here from the hall we've got in Ongar, which may have 25 elderly people doing Pilates. They have to have a report, security, they have to have all the other things.
The premises itself, so the premises can host a capacity, it's got a capacity of more than 100, so I'd imagine the hall. So it will fall in this category, so they will have to have some low-level measures in place, as detailed in the report. So they will need to have some measures in place. I think I would again stress it is at scrutiny level, and I think that's one of the concerns that has been highlighted at that level, and that's why it's being looked at in more detail.
Councillor Mead.
But would that not be things like, obvious things like having a locked door and like security things that you'd have in place anyway, possibly?
Yes, I would certainly imagine so. Certainly for the lower tier premises, the lower risk, then it will be a simple kind of prepared plan, which will be similar to a risk assessment. So I would imagine most of those premises already have a risk assessment in place, so it would just be kind of enhancing that to take into account the new considerations. Obviously, when we get more guidance on this, then that's something we will also be pushing out to our community premises as well as the businesses. Obviously, this will have far-reaching impacts. It's not just licensing. It's something that we're monitoring closely, because it will impact on our licensed premises, our events, etc. But it will also, as detailed in the report, impact on a lot of premises that don't normally come under our control. So there will be a lot of work and a lot of business engagement that will need to be done. Thank you.
Chairman, I think clearly anyone running a building which could come under any of these categories is going to be very reliant on the council for advice.
Yeah, so we will, as I say, we are monitoring it closely. As soon as we get more kind of detailed information, we will obviously post stuff on the website. We will do some business engagement, not only with our licensed premises, but also our retail premises, as well as the community halls and other premises that may be captured within this.
Sorry, I didn't notice anywhere in about enforcement who will be responsible for ensuring that they have carried out their risk assessment or have got their bits in place.
So at the moment, so the legislation, the way it states, so that will be determined by the Secretary of State. They haven't announced who that will be. There has been indicated it will either be a new regulator or it will be one of the existing government regulators. But again, we don't have any information. I'd also advise you as well that public buildings, including town halls, etc., are going to get captured in this. So we ourselves are going to have a plan in place. So it's something that we need to take note of ourselves.
Councillor Hadley.
It doesn't sound proportionate to me, I'm afraid. But obviously it's going through Parliament, so maybe somebody else will say that there. But, you know, it sounds a lot of money for a lot of people to produce this, which doesn't seem to be a proportionate response to the threat. But, okay, I don't expect an answer.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Kesker.
I would just say it's been reported a couple of times in the Telegraph, but some MPs have already raised this, that the proposals as they stand are not proportionate to the risk. But whether that will have any effect on drafting, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, as detailed in the reports, the Home Affairs Select Committee have raised some concerns, and I believe the levels of proportionality was one of the concerns. There are reports online, so you can actually read the Home Affairs Committee report should you wish to do so. There is also a lot of information out there as well. There's a fact sheet on Martin's Law on the Home Office website, and there is other information which I'm happy to post to members. If you want to contact me, I'll certainly send that out to you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. So we'll move on to review of licensing subcommittee procedures. Now, have any members any problems with the procedures or anything we ought to be doing? Oh, I'm quiet. You must be doing it right then. Yeah, come on, Councillor Kester.
I'll go the other way and just say our system's working very well.
Seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, I've not come across any licensing meeting for some considerable time that wasn't efficiently run and was very fair, no matter what the applicant and no matter what it was about, and I find it difficult to see how we could improve it.
Okay. No comments from the officers? No? All right. So then we'll move on to future training for the committee, leader of the committee. Is there anything we will be when we get some new members on the committee? They'll have to be trained, but nothing at the moment, I don't think, is there? We've got another meeting in March, so it'll come up again then. Any other comments from anybody? No? Dave?
Chair, just one comment. Up until this point, normally I've done training individually with members. However, I've also prepared some slides that we will be sending across to our colleagues in IT that will be available for members to view and do training online on Litmus, I believe the system's called.
Okay, all right, fine.
There'll be an overview of the Licensing Act, as well as a specific kind of shorter kind of presentation of slides around decision making and hearings, and I'm hoping to also do one on taxi licensing as well.
Okay. And item 14 is matters arising. Anything to do with licensing that we ought to be considering? Councillor Kesker.
Chairman, my perennial question, how are we doing with taxi fares?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kesker. You'll be pleased to know that Cabinet have approved the consultation. So the consultation is going to go out. So under the council has the power to set the taxi fares. However, any increase has to be signed off by Cabinet. But before we can actually increase our fares, we have to go out to consultation, which we are doing hopefully in November. The minimum requirement for consultation is 14 days. However, we are extending that, so we will be doing a standard 28-day consultation to allow for comments to be received from the various groups. If there are no objections, we will implement the increase as stated on the public notice. If there are objections, it will need to be referred back to Cabinet to then determine whether or not we proceed as proposed or whether there's any further amendments. But I'll certainly keep you posted. Thank you.
Okay. That's about it, I think. Date of next meeting is the 19th of March. Thank you for your attendance, all officers and members, and declare the meeting closed.